everybody, and welcome to Empower You. I'm your host, Janet Hickox, and with me today is my co-host, Roger Wetzel. Hello, Roger.
Hey, Janet, how are you today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Other
I've
than the
recovered
computer
from
problems?
computer problems and dog problems. So I'm back on an even keel now, so we're really glad to be back. This is our first interview together in a while, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here again. I'm
Yeah, and
looking
today
forward
we
to
have
it.
the fabulous guest. Yeah, we have a great interview with you today. We step out of our normal Empower You box and into the alien box today. And this happens to be one of my favorite topics ever. I spent the whole weekend watching Ancient Aliens and ET stories, and there was another UFO files or something that was on my free TV through my cable company. So I'm really ready to rock this topic with our guest, who's Reverend Michael J. Carter. And hello there, Michael. How are you?
Hello, Janet. Hi, Roger.
Hi,
I'm
Michael. How are
delighted to
you?
be here. Okay, thanks for having me on.
Now, Michael Carter is originally from Baltimore, Maryland. He moved to New York City in 1980 and lived there for 25 years, working as a professional actor before moving to Asheville with his family. Michael is an ordained interfaith minister and received his BA degree in letters from the College of New Rochelle, where he graduated cum laude. He received his master's in divinity degree from Union Theological Seminary in New York City, the class of 2000. And while serving various Unitarian Universalist congregations in New York, Michael was trained as an anti-racism trainer and has been recognized by President Clinton for his efforts. Michael was also a weekly columnist for the Asheville Citizens-Times, and Reverend Carter now serves as the minister for the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Swanoa Valley in the beautiful mountains of western North Carolina. Of perfect interest for us, though, however, is that Reverend Carter has written articles on UFOs and religion for such publications as UFO Magazine, Alien Encounters, which is a British publication, the MUFON UFO Journal, Contact Forum, the Space Newsletter, which is an acronym for Support Program for Abductees, Contact Encounters, a UFO support group in New York City. He has spoken at UFO conferences such as the ARE Ancient Mysteries Conference, the Second Philadelphia Need to Know Conference, the annual Long Island UFO Conference with Bud Hopkins, as well as appearing on radio and TV appearances across the nation. Reverend Carter has also appeared on Japanese television discussing the Bible and UFOs. A longtime UFO experiencer, he lectures extensively on the topic of religion and UFOs. He has appeared on the Sci-Fi Channel Steven Spielberg's production of Abduction Diaries, The Real 4400, and is a frequent guest on the History Channel's production of Ancient Aliens. Reverend Carter also has two books entitled Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials in the Holy Bible, and A New World. And the other book is A New World, If You Can Take It, God, Extraterrestrials, and the Evolution of Human Consciousness, both books published by Grave Distractions Publishing Company. That is quite a list of things.
It is, and I actually didn't know I had that many credits until someone asked me for a bio, and when I went back, who was it? Kierkegaard, the philosopher.
Yeah.
Then the philosopher said, "Life is lived forward, but it's only understood backwards." Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, it was like it was another ministry. When I had to write out a resume and turn it into, so you never know because you're up to your neck in it. But when you step back, it's been quite a journey.
Yes, it sounds like it. So where we want to begin your journey then is for you to give us a little bit of background about yourself, other than what we've already read here about you. You had a very specific experience that kind of launched you into the topic of
Yes.
The aliens and extraterrestrials. So give us some background and bring us up to why it is this is a topic of such interest for you.
Well, I grew up in the African American Baptist tradition. Which was pretty, I guess, fundamentalistic, evangelical, probably more fundamentalistic. And I had no interest in sci-fi, any of that. I was the Bible meant what it said, and it said what it meant. Until December 28th, 1989, I was coming back from a trip to Mexico, and I was on the Yucatan. So I went to see the pyramids at Chichen Itza and Tulum, and came back to New York and with my girlfriend at the time, and I was invited to a party. And I kind of didn't want to go, but I kind of wanted to gloat over the tan and the hair changing colors. And, I just went, the ego got it. So I went. It was freezing in New York. So I caught the subway down to Times Square, walked to my friend's house, and it was freezing. So I stayed about 90 minutes. I made my cameo. I made my guest appearance. And just lovely food, deviled eggs and all this finger food. No adult beverages consumed, at least not by me. And I went back home so I could say I showed up. And that night, I don't even know to this day if I had to get up to go to the bathroom or I just felt the presence in my room. But I sleep on my stomach mostly. And when I went to turn over, there was a being at the edge of my bed. We lived at 45 West 81st Street. This is the Excelsior Hotel, residential hotel, still there, 15th floor. The room was lit up like it was Times Square. There was a being on the edge of my bed surrounded in this cobalt blue light. There was a glow about them, like this whitish glow. The skin was chalk white, wasn't gray, even though by the phenotype, he fits the stereotype of what we would call a gray.
Yeah.
And the tight-fitting jumpsuit kind of thing, looking like aluminum foil, very spindly looking, no more than 4 feet tall, tops. And this brother looked at me, and I looked at it, and I felt my heart like it was going to pound out of my chest. My girlfriend at the time would not wake up. I don't know whether she could not, or did not stir. And I pulled the covers up over my head. That's how frightened I was. I'm not a macho man. I don't claim to be. That's what I did, a grown man. And when I did, I heard this whoosh, like this wind, and the temperature changed like I was outside. And I was trying to wrap my mind around this brother here, and I'm on the 15th. I can't be outside. It's 15, but it was freezing. I pulled the covers down. Nothing. Like no one was there. So.
And now you're thinking, did I really not drink tonight?
Well, I went to a mental health professional, but it took me. Yeah, I went to a psychiatrist, but it
that
took
went over
about
well,
2
I
more.
bet.
No, I'll tell you the story to that. Basically, it started happening every full and new moon. Every full and new moon. So we're talking twice a month for about 6-8 months, maybe even close to a year. I was not getting sleep. I was afraid to turn the light off. I told my girlfriend about it. She was understanding. She was more mystical in her bent anyway.
So she actually believed you that this was happening.
Yeah.
But yet she had not experienced it herself. Is that right?
No. But she had other experiences,
So in all of this time, was it just that this thing would show up and you'd cover your head and then uncover it and it would be gone, or was there any?
No. What had happened was I would be paralyzed, and they would show me pictures of what they were going to do or what they wanted me to know. Later, when I did start hearing voices, it wasn't from them, it was telepathy because their mouths didn't move.
Mm-hmm.
What I did after probably the third time was I went to a bookstore called The Strand on Spring Street. You may have heard of it in New York, very famous bookstore. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't The Strand. I forget the name. It was on Spring Street, and it was kind of like a new agey kind of thing, but they had a lot of stuff. And I went to the UFO section, and I say in the book, I felt like I was buying condoms for the first time. I was so shy. I wouldn't look at people. And I put these books in. One of the books was called Encounters by a PhD, a mental health professional by the name of Dr. Edith Fiore. It's a great book. And she listed the symptoms. I was looking for it in the bookstore, but in the back, she had a book. I had a listing of mental health professionals all over the country who were dealing with this.
And
Mm.
this was,
So
let me in. This was in what
Sure.
year? What year was it?
1989.
Okay.
1989.
89.
Yeah. So at that time, it's 1990 because my first encounter was December
At the
28th.
end of the year,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
now we're going into 1990. And so I went up to the cashier, and the place was called the Open Center.
Mm.
They did yoga, and the Omega Institute had some pamphlets and stuff there. And he said to me, this guy said, you don't look good. And I said, oh. He said, you look like you're in bad shape. I said, oh, I just wanted to shut up and take my money. But he said, these books, is this a hobby or is this for real? So I started to lie and said it was a hobby, okay? But I said, it's for real. He said, okay, I thought so. And he writes down on the back of a card, he said, this is a support group. You may find some help for people who are going through what you're going through. And it was called SPACE, as you read in the bio.
Yeah.
And so I went there. And at that time in New York, there were two kind of groups. You know how human beings always sever and we split.
Hmm.
The group I was in was mostly people who had positive encounters, or what we thought were positive encounters, because these beings had not hurt me, not really. It was my fear that, and then there was Bud's group, the late Bud Hopkins, who he and I were very friendly, but his group was more of people who were abductees or labeled, self-identified as such. They had sperm taken or ovum. It was just traumatic. I was in this other group. Occasionally the twain would meet, but not often. And so I believe what was happening happened to them, no doubt in my mind. But, human beings, we like to stereotype. And so I wanted people to know that there were positive encounters. There were encounters that could be spiritual transforming, as opposed to, these horrible stories.
The nightmare versions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they happen because, with star people, they are more evolved and less evolved. More evolved than us technologically, no question. A lot of them, not all of them. I would say most. But, just like with human beings, there's some more evolved and some less evolved. So that's where I was coming from. That's where I'm still coming from. And there are also different races, of which I've seen 3.
3 different races that have come to visit you?
Yes, I've seen 3 different races. I've read about more, but I've seen 3.
So this in experience of yours, then it sort of sets you on a path to find more answers. I'm guessing that's what you were looking for, is support and answers. So that began a research into the various types and where this shows up in our history. Tell us how you squared this with your religious beliefs, because fundamentalism doesn't necessarily lend itself well to being open to this kind of thinking.
No, it doesn't. And by that time, I wasn't a fundamentalist. That was my background. And I kept trying to pour old wine in new wineskins. When I was in New York, I started reading Nietzsche and Heidegger and, Sartre and all the existential philosophers, a lot of African-American philosophers. I was already expanding. I was already going to, religious science, unity. I was growing. I was more into metaphysics. These encounters accelerated that. It never got squared with Orthodox Christianity, but 20 years later, there people like L.A. Marzulli, a couple other authors. They at first they were saying star people didn't exist. Now evolution is slow; it's glacial. Now they do exist, only they're all evil. But it's growing. Okay.
We're making progress.
Movement.
Yeah, there's progress. Okay, now they do exist. But so I just had to leave that. Not only because of that, but just theologically, I just didn't believe that a loving God would barbecue you if you didn't believe. What about people who were in other religions? What about, it just didn't fit my belt and tongue. It did. So I had to leave it. I would have left it anyway without, I had already left it on one level internally. I don't knock people who still believe that. As long as it makes you the person you say you want to be, which a lot of times it can't, but I don't concern myself with that anymore. The Dalai Lama once said that if you leave a religion, don't knock it, because it still works for other people. As a matter of fact, the Dalai Lama, as did Gandhi, suggested, I mean, maybe if there's a past life bleed through or whatever, that if you were born a Christian, try to be the best Christian you can be. If you were born a Hindu, because religion comes out of a cultural experience. But if it doesn't work and you have to leave, fine, but don't talk bad about it.
Right. Become the best that you can be in the new, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that resonates with me.
Okay, great. Well, this is a great place for us to take a quick break, Roger, and then we'll come back to your question, okay?
Great.